Alrighty, guys, we are watching Nisemonogatari episode 2, Karen B part 2. If I had to guess, we're gonna get more of, stuff leading up to Aragi getting kidnapped, like we saw in the first episode. But yeah, I don't know, just listen to my last discussion if you want all my thoughts about the last episode, as always. And yeah, I guess we will just be getting started here. So you can line up your own copy with this if you want to. We will be starting in 3, 2, 1. Ah, getting introduced to them properly. The sun. Okay. A black belt at 15. All right. Oh man, it is cold in here. Hmm. The moon. Interesting. Kind of like the sun and the moon, I guess. Obviously, Ski and Ski's name. It's also okay. I guess they aren't twins. I don't remember if we knew that they weren't twins or not. He's mentioned before that Karen's older, I guess. Interesting. A rescue squad. Kind of like kind of similar to Aragi himself in a way, right? Being preoccupied with what's right, I guess, with justice in a way. I guess for Aragi it's kind of different, but hmm, hmm. Nisemono, huh? Interesting. A new opening. I think I've heard this before. Maybe not. I don't know. I can't tell. I assume we aren't gonna get that last opening only once, right? But I don't know. I want to read the lyrics. Oh, that looks cool. The smoke effects, I guess. It's not really smoke. I don't know what you would call it, but hmm. B. Karen B. I like this one. I feel like I've heard it somewhere before, but I really don't know. I can't tell if I'm just creating a false memory in my mind or not. Oh, I forgot to read that text thing in the last episode. Oh, he's here. Oh, her hair, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. Wow, that's a shot. He didn't really. I don't know. He didn't really think this through, did he? No one's here. It's just them. Oh no. She locks the door. Look how many locks it has. Oh god, it's on the second floor. He's trapped. Hmm. Closet. Ooh, that is interesting. What? Okay. Gotta remember to go back to that. I'm worried I'll forget the closet. Giving him no choice again. Oh no, please. Girl, come on. What are we doing here? Come on. I guess that always works against him. Oh god. What is happening? Alright. It's okay. Alright. Come on. I hate that game. What does that even mean? Hmm. I believe that. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He thinks that's we've already gone through that and not a ghost snake. I don't think she's too happy about it though. As usual, huh? A weird spell. Hmm. What did you tell her? Hmm. Interesting. Mm-hmm. She just activated it herself. Yeah. But was it entirely her fault? I don't know. I don't know. It's unclear, I guess. Yeah, I don't think they know anything about. Yeah. Hmm. Going around in what way exactly? How would you know? Mm-hmm. They yeah, they're pretty similar to Araragi. Hmm. Mm-hmm. What motivation would someone have for hmm. Interesting. Okay. This stuff about her hair is something I'll talk about. Oh no. Oh god. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Great. Oh god, what is happening? All right. Great. Fantastic. Did he sneak out the window or something? Like what? Yeah, his innocence was kept intact. Awesome. Oh, Kambaru. Man, we're meeting up with everyone. Who else would it be? You called his phone. Okay. Great. Fantastic. Great. Oh, really? I don't know. I don't think so. True. Yeah. Come on. It's nothing that crazy. Man, what is this bridge? Occasionally. Okay. All right. No, you didn't. I guess. I guess this is the competition between them. That's fine. Come on, it's okay. Fantastic. Great. Come on, it's not that bad. It's a different answer than Nautico gave him. What? Okay. He's really excited, I guess. What are you doing? Karen, girl, what's going on? Are you playing the floor is lava? What's happening? Whoa! Oh, okay. She can fly. My bad. I thought it was an enemy. The pose that she's doing. Like, what does that mean? The true. He does embarrassing stuff. I. That's pretty much what he called when he was gonna go help Hanakawa and Ake. Oh yeah. What does that even mean? Whoa. Okay, sure. Thanks. I I doubt he could defeat her. Busy with some stuff. I think we have a idea of what that stuff is from Nautico. Hmm. Man, she really is taller than him. Okay, we don't get to hear. Hmm. Man, it looks so good. This really will be over soon. I okay, great. How are you gonna clean this? What's the plan? Okay, fantastic. She's what? She's just been in a depressed haze, lying here. The shock from her grandmother. Uh huh. Paragon of virtue. Oh yeah, I'm sure that's it. Yeah. I great. I what does that mean? Oh, I okay. Sure. Is that how that works? You saw Sindrugahara naked in the second episode. Oh no, not that many. Who? Just Sindrugahara, honestly. True. Hmm. Thank you. They've set up a conveyor belt. Wow. They did say how good she is, I guess. They made it to nationals. Yeah, it's just sitting under a pile of books. Hmm. Wonder when that was. She sure has grown out her hair. That true? Probably. I don't know. Never thought about it. I what? Is that is there a connection there? I guess. I I what? Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Man, this is a bit of a different episode, isn't it? I someone's got to explain that one to me. Hmm. Back then. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Oh, yeah, you have 5,000 copies of the, I don't know, Communist Manifesto or something. All read. How do you buy the same book 4 times? Who wouldn't? Come on. Oh, true. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. he's he's hitting her where it hurts. Like, whoa. Okay. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. True. True. He's really backed her into a corner here. Look at his face. Like, what is she doing? A lower stratum. Her voice there. Like, okay, all right, he's dead. What? For what? It's fantastic. Great. Awesome. I guess he deserves it a little bit. Yeah, exactly. That's why he deserves it. All right. Fantastic. This sounds great. Thank you. Oh man, that was so fast. That was a very different episode than any episode we've had so far. Ah, certainly still some stuff to talk about. Hmm. Man, we really gotta we gotta meet up with all the characters, huh? Not Hanakawa. We haven't seen Hanakawa yet. But it feels like we're getting reacquainted with everyone after Kizu. We saw a whole bunch of Hanakawa there. Yeah, just man, no episode before in Bage or anything was like this, huh? I mean, it was good. It's very different. Feels like we still got proper setup for what's going on. We kind of have like a double setup here. We know Aragi's gonna get kidnapped, and we also have setup for the other stuff going on that Nadeko was talking about, right? Wonder how I wonder if we'll have a different character for the preview again. I assume so. I guess it's because the Fire Sisters are like in the show. Awesome. Okay. Uh, True. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You could look at it that way, I suppose. Fantastic. Oh, okay. All right, thanks. Um, man, that was different. We will talk about the episode in the discussion. Man, I have the worst news. I recorded this entire discussion, and my microphone was muted the whole time. So that is very unfortunate. So I guess I'm doing it again. That really sucks because now I feel like I'm absolutely going to miss stuff because I'm going to think, oh, I already talked about that, even though that was actually what I just recorded when my microphone was muted the entire time. But I guess I'll go through all of this again. I really hope I'm not going to forget stuff that I just talked about for 30 minutes, but I don't know. Let's see. So anyway, we're introduced to the Fire Sisters properly, finally. We get this we kind of get this interesting like man, this relationship between them and like the sun and the moon. We get this whole, Karen with the sun and Skihi with the moon. Which like, in Skihi's name, like Ski is like moon, right? I know that. I don't really know. I don't think anything in Karen's name has anything to do with the sun though. So I don't really know what that's all about. I don't know in what way she's related to the sun. I have no idea. Um, but yeah, Karen is the you know, the tomboy one who's a black belt at 15, which is like ridiculous. And Skihi is the much more feminine one who I don't know. They say the stuff about her throwing fits all the time and all of this, which I don't really know what that means. I don't really know what to take from that. I guess. Hmm. I don't know. I don't know. But the Fire Sisters. I guess I'm really trying to think like what I could apply to this whole sun and moon thing between them, but I don't know. I don't know yet. I I'm sure it'll mean something. I just don't know what really. But so Aragi talks about how they are a rescue squad. They go out. They're the heroes of justice and all of this. When it's like, uh, it really is very similar to the stuff Aragi does, right? Like they're preoccupied in a way with wanting to do with what's right, which like obviously who isn't. Like yeah, I mean that's kind of a normal thing, but for Aragi it's certainly a big deal, right? Him wanting to save people all the time and do all of that. And it's just interesting because they're kind of doing the same thing. They really are doing. It's like Aragi is really doing the same thing that they're doing, but in his mind he thinks they're fakes, right? He calls them fakes, which along with the title, he literally says Nisemono, which this is Nisemonogatari, so it's interesting we're already getting like a direct reference to the title in a way. Um, I don't know. I just think that's interesting. I wonder what he means exactly by calling them fakes. Um, he says it's just a game, right? But I don't know. It's just weird because it really is. It's like this hypocrisy in him almost that they're not really doing anything different than what he does. Obviously, he knows about the supernatural and they don't. Um, hmm. I don't know. We'll talk about it more when we get to the scene with Karen. When he talks to her. Uh, we get the new opening, which is good. I like it. I swear I heard it somewhere before, but I don't know where. And I don't know. It looks really cool. It looks different than any of the other ones. Looks good though. It looks good. Honestly, the animation and all of this has just been really good. It's hard to believe this came out. I think this came out 2 years after Bake did, um, which is like weird. It looks so much better in my opinion. All right. So he meets up with Nadeko, which immediately we bring up this idea of her hair and all of this, right? Which in my first discussion that I was already muted for, I already stumbled through my thoughts on that. So I think my thoughts are much clearer about it now, right? So with Nautico, there's this whole idea of like I talked about it a lot in Nautico Snake about how it's like her problem and everything is obscured in Nautico Snake. We don't really get to see it, right? And it's like almost like that's just her entire like issue as a character, right? Is that she is very closed off, doesn't tell people things about herself, right? And we get this closet in her room that she doesn't want anyone to open. which to me it really seems like it's almost like spelling it out like very explicitly for you if you hadn't already gotten it in Nautico Snake in a way. You know, how she has this closet in her room that she doesn't want anyone to look into, she doesn't want anyone to see. That like even Araragi, who she's so like infatuated with, and has this crush on, she doesn't want him to see anything about it, right? Like, you know, you leave it up to anyone to imagine what could be in there. You know, in my mind, I imagine it's just something personal about her, right? That she doesn't want to show other people, and that's just kind of her entire thing in general, right? Like, it takes me back to that one line in Nautico Snake when Araragi is talking to her about how like if she's in pain, if she's hurting, something like that, then she can show other people. Which, for one, as always, it feels kind of empty coming from Araragi because he never applies these things to himself. But that line really does, I feel like, just encapsulates Sengoku's problem in general. You know how, yeah, and this closet really feels just, yeah, this closet's like a physical representation of that, pretty much. You know, her locking it away. She doesn't want anyone to see it, even Araragi, which is noteworthy. You know, it's like just this personal stuff about her that she doesn't show anyone, right? And linking that back into her hair, it's interesting, right? How like she normally has the really long bangs that almost like cover her eyes, and now she doesn't, right? She's put them up, you know. Um, and really, I was thinking about how like it's not really that they're like a representation of her showing herself to people, because sure, she is like that, and that coincides along with the bangs, but she doesn't really, you know, other than being much more forward with Aragi in this scene that's happening now, acting much less shy around him. Um, her behavior otherwise doesn't really change, right? So it's almost like you can link just the bangs to the general her being super shy, you know? Like if you think about the scene when Aragi and Sengoku were talking outside of the school in the first episode of Tsubasa Cat, when Hanakawa shows up, she just like immediately runs away and is terrified, you know, because she's just a super shy person, you know. And in this scene, she really, you know, her behavior, the way she's dressed, everything, she really does not act like that, you know. Um, so it's like I you would want to tie her bangs and her covering her face with them, her eyes basically with them, to the whole idea of her being a closed off person who doesn't tell people stuff about herself. But in this scene, it's almost just like it's an analogy just for her being shy, you know, and that's really it. Because it's not really like she opens up to Araki in any meaningful way. She just acts, you know, like the way she does in this scene, you know. Um, and now the next thing is if we want to tie her behavior, and no, specifically if we want to tie Araragi's reaction to her behavior to the stuff I was talking about in the last episode about how about his the way he acts with Hajikuji and the way he acted with Hanakawa in that one scene in Kizu, right? I really feel like this is you can really tie this in with that. I think it fits in perfectly. Like the way he acts with her, he's in like oblivious anime protagonist mode in a way. But I think it's like it's very intentional from him, right? Like with the way Aragi is, you know, I think generally there's this view of him that you would get unavoidably of him being like a massive pervert and a really, uh, you wouldn't expect him to react in the way he does to Nautico when she's acting like this, right? Um, so like I think it really says something about Aragi and the way he views Sengoku in general, I think. Like he thinks about it during their conversation in a moment here about how like uh they're talking about the spell that's circulating through the school. We'll talk about that in a minute, but and he thinks this thing about how like since Sengoku Nadiko's involved, it's like a delicate situation or whatever. Um and in that sense it's like he almost just views Sengoku as a like just a helpless person that he just has to like protect, you know. Um because that's really what her role was in the first in or in Bake in the Nautico Snake arc, right? And their first interactions together. I mean, I guess not their first interactions because they're what, when they were like young, but whatever. The first times we have interacted with Nautico, that's how it was, Um, and that's really like the role it felt like she was playing in the story. There was just this helpless victim who, through seemingly no fault of her own, even though really she did activate the curse on herself, which is interesting. Um, Not that I think, I said this during Nautico Snake, I think, as well, about how the whole situation really did end up working out for her. Um, she certainly got reconnected with Aragi. Um, but despite that, it's not like she somehow like knew what was going to happen and knew that activating the curse on herself would lead to this, right? Um, but anyway, Aragi views her in this way where she's just like this victim who he has to like protect, right? He doesn't view her as like an equal to him or someone that he can like rely on, right? He views it as Nautico should be like relying on him, right? And if we think about like, his reaction to characters in situations like this one, like the way he reacts to Hajikuji, the way he was acting with Hanakawa in the, that one scene in Kizu 3, you know what I'm talking about. Um, it's just very telling, right? He doesn't react to her very clear advances in this situation because um he doesn't feel this like emotional like bond with her, or he doesn't feel like he doesn't feel like he can be like emotionally open to her, right? And it's like for him it's like being emotionally open and being like sexually responsive to the character is almost like it's like tied together, it really is. Because I mean, I literally think I brought this up in the last episode. I just want to talk about it again because I just think it's so interesting to think about how, you know, he acts like such a loser and he acts so stupid in the scene with in Kizu 3, in that scene with Hanakawa, right, where he can't even bring himself to end up touching her. Because that's the first emotional bond he's forming with someone in a long time, right? He's breaking out of his crazy mindset about not wanting to form relationships with other people. So he's super unsure about it. He's super, and blah 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 blah. By the time we get with Hajikuji, well, he loves Hajikuji, right? He feels like he can talk to her about anything, all of that, she's really kind of like his best friend almost in a way. And that's why he has the ridiculous, crazy, over the top reaction to her every time when he sees her, right? Which certainly has sexual components to it, right? And now with Nadeko, he has no sexual reaction to her at all, despite her acting like this, you know, because in his mind, he doesn't have this like emotional connection to her, or he doesn't feel like emotionally open to her. So he also doesn't react in that way to her, right? Because yeah, he just views her as just this helpless girl that he has to protect, pretty much, right? I don't know. I really think that's it. Hmm. Anyway, so we start talking about this spell that's going around. Um, and yeah, okay, just to address this because I'm really, there were a couple comments about, I don't want to argue with people in the comment section, so I'm not going to talk about it. I don't know. I'm not going to call people out specifically, and I'm not going to like argue about it pointlessly. But like, yes, obviously he thinks here like, oh, I'm not going to get dirty thoughts about her. Obviously, it's a callback to, in Nautico Snake, in the first one, when she takes off her clothes and that conversation you had with Combrew about her, all that stuff, right? Obviously, yes, it's a callback to that. So, like, you could view it in the way that, like, yes, surface level, you can view it as just he's having this reaction because of yeah, all of that stuff, right? About how it's just like this surface level thing. He's just thinking back to that interaction, blah, 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 blah. I think it's just because it's not spelled out explicitly, though, I don't think that means in any way that the stuff I'm saying is wrong. If it lines up perfectly, I don't think there's in any way you can say that it's not there just because there's a different, more obvious explanation for it, right? I'm just saying, that's the same approach I'm taking to the whole human vampire thing, right? Like, to me, if it fits and it makes sense, then that's it. Like, in my mind, I really feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm just like shadow boxing people who don't exist, who I'm imagining disagree with me in my mind. Whatever. Um, in my mind, we know what being a vampire means to Araragi, which is connection to other people. And again, yes, it doesn't mean that for Kiss Shot, right? It's specifically an Araragi thing, because literally for him, he talks about how humanity is not being connected to other people, and then he loses his humanity. He is now a vampire, and he is connected to other people. Not even to talk about like the implications of like literally how vampires have to suck other people's blood, how like vampires are literally reliant on other people to be alive. And I feel like it just connects perfectly. Anyway, I mean, I'm literally arguing with nothing that no one cares about, but I feel like I'm gonna keep going with with these interpretations of these things. If it falls apart at some point and it breaks apart in a way that I can't connect it and it doesn't make sense, then like yes, obviously that interpretation doesn't make sense, and I'll acknowledge that, you know. Um, just because you're someone who might have seen the show before and you know the story and you think that that means my interpretation of it is wrong, well, sure, I'm sure the story will show me that then, right? Like, yes, like all the stuff within the last episode, Hajikuji talking about how he doesn't need to worry about, he should just keep being a vampire secret from his family. Like, yes, I know, obviously, Hajikuji isn't talking about being a vampire in the same way, right? Obviously, she isn't thinking of it in the same bizarre way that Aragi is about his humanity and his connection to other people, all of that. That doesn't mean that there isn't some deeper meaning behind Hajikuji saying that stuff to Aragi, right? Like, the analogy of what a vampire means to Aragi doesn't fall apart just because it's coming out of someone else's mouth, right? Because we're in Aragi's viewpoint, we know what being a vampire means to him. So, like, you know what? Whatever. I really should not pointlessly argue with imagined people, right? So, who cares? Whatever. Let's talk about what actually happened in this episode. Anyway, so they're talking about this weird spell that's circulating around. Which for one, it's like, so we already know there was this weird curse stuff at her middle school, at least, from Nautico Snake, when someone casted this curse on her and all of this, which, she activated it by herself, so that makes you think already it's like, was it even real? I don't know. Because I guess that's kind of my viewpoint on all of this, is they bring up how the Fire Sisters, Aragi and, Karen and Skihi, are getting involved with this, and because they don't know anything about the supernatural, right? It's almost like they're just getting involved with it in a way where they're trying to figure out where this like rumor is even coming from and all of this, right? They don't know about the supernatural, right? Which they bring up specifically. And it really is making me wonder, because they're so vague about it. They're so vague about this whole spell situation, right? Because Nanako even says, "I'm the only one who's actually been affected by it. It's the only one who it's actually manifested in," and we know that because she activated it herself, right? So the implication is, for anyone else, these weird spells wouldn't even do anything, And it makes me wonder if this whole spell thing that they're talking about is even real in the first place. Not that it's not real, but that it actually has anything to do with aberrations or oddities at all. Aragi talks about how he thinks no one's trying to spread it and all of this, which for one, I don't know where he's getting that from. How would he possibly know? And then two, he brings up, like, even if someone is, it's not their responsibility, which, bringing back the whole idea of Aragi and hypocrisy, it's like, okay, well, he should probably tell himself that it's not his responsibility a lot of the time, He doesn't do that, though, that's for sure. So, like, I don't know, it's very interesting. It just feels really weird to me, this whole thing they're talking about these spells and how someone's spreading them. Even though, again, if it's the same situation as it was before, with Nautico being cursed by someone, we know that they don't actually do anything unless you activate it yourself, like Nautico did. I don't know, and they bring up the idea that someone's deliberately spreading it for their own reasons. Like, my thought on this is like, in Kizu, we brought up this idea of the balance, which I still don't know what that means. I mean, like yes, obviously there's the like actual like in universe mechanic of aberrations and oddities and all of that, right? Like how I mean, I guess just some kind of idea of a balance between the aberration oddity world and the normal human world, I guess. I still don't really know what a balance means. Why do you need a balance between those things? I just really don't know. I don't know. I really have no idea. Um, or like, and then especially if we're going a layer deeper in terms of like what aberrations and oddities like represent in the story in general, I really don't know what we mean by a balance in those terms. But whatever. It's just making me wonder, like, okay, Oshino wanted there to be a balance between those things. If we're thinking of reasons why someone would want to spread some spell around, that, we could think of it like maybe someone wants to tip the balance in the other direction, or tip it off balance and in favor of the aberration oddity side, I guess. I don't really know. I don't know why anyone would want to do that. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know anything, I guess. But that's just my only thought for why someone would want to do it, I guess. Um, and then just my other thought on this whole Araragi, like potential hypocrisy thing. It's hypocrisy in a way, but it really does just boil down to the way Araragi views himself, right? We've talked about that many times about how it's like he thinks it's his responsibility to help and save other people just because of the opinion he has of his own self-worth, right? Um so in that sense, yeah. I mean, it makes sense why he would think his sisters shouldn't get involved with it, especially when they're, his sisters. They matter a lot to him. We brought up in the first episode in that conversation with Skihi he had about how he worries about them, and all of that, right? Uh, or not trusting them. We really, there's the dichotomy between those things, whatever. But it's hypocrisy, but it's only hypocrisy if you're viewing it from the sense of like Araragi viewing his own self-worth as the same as other people's, which he doesn't, right? He thinks it's fine for him to get involved in all this stuff because he thinks he's worth less than other people, all that stuff. We've talked about it, right? Whereas his sister's getting involved in it, putting themselves in potentially harm's way, he thinks that's a bad thing, right? So it's hypocrisy, but from Aragi's mindsets, you can understand how it's arose. Yeah. Hmm. And then they play Twister, which is, yeah, fantastic. Great. Yeah, Sengoku doesn't really get what she wants, unfortunately. Anyway, so Kambaru. Um, man, I'm trying to decide, like, no, here, we'll talk about Kambaru in a second, because of the scene with Karen before, right? Yeah, here, let's talk about Karen for a second. So Karen's awesome. She's very cool. Um, we immediately kind of bring up more of Aragi's hypocrisy in a way, right? Where he's saying like, "Oh, you're acting so weird" and all of this, and Karen specifically brings up, "I think you're trying to avoid talking about yourself," which like, yeah, Aragi literally acts the same way Karen does in a lot of ways, right? She is super like gung ho about justice and all of this. I mean, in a way, you can really boil down Aragi's whole thing about wanting to do the right thing and wanting to save people down to that same thing, right? Um, like we've been inside Aragi's mind a lot, so we know, we've heard so many of his internal monologues and the way he narrativizes about these things endlessly, and the way he just, man, he just agonizes over them and everything, right? So he views it all in this super melodramatic way. That's really, he thinks it's way different. But it really isn't. Like sure, Karen is acting, really ridiculous. But it really boils down to really the same mindsets, I think, for both of them, in a way, right? And especially like Karen acting so embarrassing as in public, which is like what Aragi brings up. I mean, like Aragi and Hajikuji, just think about that in the last episode. I don't know. He doesn't have much to talk about. It's like, yeah, and she literally calls it volunteer work, which is like what he isn't that literally like what he called it with Hanakawa in Tsubasa Cat. Um, when Sindrugahara asked him where he was going. He literally like called it that. Like she is doing the same thing as him, right? I guess the main difference you could point out is the fact that he knows about the supernatural and they don't. Sure, but I think the mindset it's similar. Well, I don't know. The actions, what they want to do is similar. The actual mindset of it is different. The reason why they're doing it is different between them. I certainly imagine. I hope Karen doesn't think the same way Araki does. Um, but yeah, Karen's awesome. So, there's that. And it's almost like we could just view her as a hmm. I don't know. If we're just thinking about how her actions are so similar to Aragi's, it really is. It's just like, she's his little sister, so we can almost view it, she is connected to him, and it's like it's almost like she's just showing us how ridiculous Aragi's actions are in a way. It's like we're locked in his mind and we see his actions through his narrative through the way he narrativizes it and everything, and his melodrama and everything. But Karen doesn't act like that at all, despite really doing the same stuff almost. There's one shot here I think is really funny. Yeah, right here, where it's like Aragi's head is perfectly lined up with the top of this, right? It gives us a perfect reference point for how tall he is. And we perfectly see that Karen is much taller than him because her head goes way over it, I just think that's funny how they have to have done that on purpose because it gives us the perfect reference point to see that she is way taller than him, which is, I don't know, funny. Hmm. Anyway, he goes to meet up with Kombaru, which for one, he says he wanted to see her while she was depressed, but I think he rushed over here so fast for this. So, yeah. Now, I'm trying to think. I don't really think there's almost anything plot related I even want to talk about during all of this because it's literally just them talking about nonsense. Or, not nonsense. I think there's serious meaning behind it, which I'm about to talk about. But in terms of plot related stuff, literally I can't think of anything they even talk about. So I'm just gonna go into it. Yet again, at risk of people telling me I'm thinking too much about it or something. I don't care. I'm gonna talk about it. So Kombaru is growing out her hair, which think about this, right? When was the last time we when was the first time, the only time they've mentioned Kombaru growing out her hair, right? It was in Bakemonogatari when Aragi and Kombaru. Was I calling her Karen? I don't think so. I think I'm saying Kombaru. I feel like I said Karen at some point though. Anyway, it was when Aragi and Kombaru were talking outside the cram school, and she brings up this idea that if Aragi is only dating Sindrugahara for her body, then Kombaru can just grow out her own hair and make herself look pretty and stuff for Aragi. So that then, the implication is obviously that Kombaru can date Sindrugahara instead, right? That if Aragi doesn't actually see anything in her, I think that really does play at Aragi's insecurities about him and Sindrugahara's relationship and all of that. And I really think it just goes down to him almost thinking that Kombaru deserves Sindrugahara more than he does. But because that just plays at his insecurities so perfectly that she is willing to do all of that stuff just to date Sindrugahara. Whatever. I don't need to go back to talking about Bakemonogatari, but so she said all that stuff about how she's going to grow out her hair and all of that, right? And well, now she is. She is doing it, and like all of that, her growing out her hair and the way that she acts towards Aragi especially, it really makes me think like I really think I don't really think it's her being like some kind of like I don't know manipulative person or something. There's a very uncharitable way you could view her actions if you're looking at them this way, but I don't really think that's it. But I really think in a way she kind of is going through with that idea that she proposed to Araragi, right? She acts the way that she acts towards him is super she acts super perverted and all of this. unlike the other girls in Aragi's life, she is super forward with him in a way, uh, like, you know, the way she acts in this episode, especially at the end, you know, she's very forward with him about this whole thing. She's like pushing herself on him, pretty much, you know. Um, and it's just, to me, it just really just reminds me of the conversation they had outside the school about her growing her hair out and trying to act pretty for him, so that he will pick her over Senjogahara, pretty much, right? Um, you know, I don't want to reduce. I'm not trying to reduce their entire relationship to just that. You know, I'm not trying to say that's all it is. I'm just saying I think that absolutely in some way plays into the way that she's acting, right? I don't see how you could view it any other way because of like she is growing out her hair, just like she said that she would do to Aragi, and the reasons why she said she would do it, you know. So it's like her being so desperate to for Aragi to see her as being super perverted and all of that. I think it just all plays into it. I think it's just the same thing. Um, I think that's why she's so desperate, is because in a way this is a connection. This is like this super abstracted way that she can become reconnected with Sindragahara, right? Like, again, I'm really not trying to reduce it all to that. I just think inarguably it is connected to that in a way, right? So I don't know. I get mad at me, I guess. Say I'm thinking too much about it. I don't know, but that's all I'm saying. Hmm. Yeah, I guess that's it. In a way, like her behavior here, it kind of just makes me sad the way she's acting. It comes across thinking of it in this way, in this framework. It really comes across as like just desperate. That she's so desperate to for Aragi to see her in this way because of what it means to her in terms of like Sinjogahara, right? Um, hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's it. I guess that's just my interpretation of that. I feel like it makes sense, so I'm going with it. The show will disprove me if it is wrong. So, you know, I guess like if I'm wrong and if you're thinking of some scene that happens 50 episodes from now that definitively proves that I'm wrong, well, wait until I get there and I will be proven wrong. So, there we go. Um yeah, I don't know. Sorry that I ended up arguing with no one for 20 minutes. I don't know what happened, but I felt like I had to. So, yeah, I guess that's it. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about. I'm really worried. You know, I said at the start of the discussion, I recorded this. This is the second time I'm recording the discussion. So sorry if I missed stuff. I hope I didn't. I feel like I definitely did because I don't remember everything I talked about. But I hope I didn't. I hope this was good. So yeah, leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Subscribe if you liked it. I hope. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.